Hi guys, welcome to the episode 1, season 1 of Being a Dad with Byza. I'm just excited to just get this going, get it happening. It's been a long time for me, being between drinks and talking about stuff, whether it's my life or esports or anything like that. So I won't procrastinate. It's not the word I'm looking for. And I'll tend to do this. I'll misnomer a lot, as you'll figure out in this journey. But I'll tend not to stuff around. And I have been procrastinating. That's the first thing I'm going to admit with this. I have been 100% procrastinating because I don't know, honestly, what to talk about out there. There's so much that you could potentially talk about, but also, do you want to let people know about your personal life? Do you want people to know about things you do and stuff like that? And, you know, you have to be careful with what you talk about. So I've been thinking about it for a while. But let's not hold back anymore and let's just get right into this. And the first thing I want to touch on in this podcast is where I'm at, my life, and what I'm doing. And people, if they're listening, they probably know me from commentating Rocket League and CS Go, CS 1.6, CSS back in the day. I think I did 10 years of CS commentary, and I don't even talk to anyone from those genres. But if anyone is listening from there, g'day, good to see you all, and thanks for listening. Rocket League guys, they're all little kids when I started. When I say little kids, to me, they're 14, 15-year-olds, you know. I'm a dad. I'm 32 years of age, so you can see how the gap is. They're practically a kid to me. Anyways, they're all growing up, teenagers, going through uni or working and actually discovering life. And it makes me think, going back to the ages of 18 to 25, it was all about the parties, all about the girls, all about, you know, the fun stuff, being rebellious, getting away from mum and dad because, you know, you want to live your own life. And I can remembering the point. What was it? My sister had my nephew, which is her first son, and we're 21 years of age. She was living at home. The boyfriend was living at home. That's her boyfriend, and the little one screaming his head off, as all babies do. And I'm like, I'm 21. I'm still living in my parents' house. I need to get out of here. So I went online, looked at Rewa, not a sponsor, hashtag not a sponsor, which is the real estate site, and decided, heck, I'll just get out of this place, you know, find a place. I found a place in Sorrento, Western Australia. It was an apartment block of about 6 different units and stuff like that. And what was my rent? I'm trying to remember what the rent was. It was $240 for a 1x1 that I got. And it was about 100 meters from the coastline. And I had a 180 view, right? The apartment was probably about 30, 40 years old. But you know what? Just to get out and away from what was a chaotic household. Yeah, that was heaps of fun. So I could understand what happens when you get to the age and you want to get out. But what really did happen was you had to change your life. It's all part of growing up. And that's where I stopped gaming, stopped doing all the stuff that I found enjoyable while I was living with my parents. And, you know, and prior to that, I was commentating a lot, which was all the CS. So that's where I lost touch with all the CS side of things. And people don't, you know, like, this is not a story that I've really told anyone out there. Probably only my wifey knows, right? But we all got to do our growing up, and in the form of that is you don't have enough money, you don't have a good job, you don't know how much things really cost until you leave your mum and dad's nest egg, that is. And there's a lot of money out there, and some people could be like, man, you live in Perth, it's like the cheapest city in Australia, probably around the world. You've got it easy over there. And I was like, yeah, we do. But inflation is a thing. It does increase and stuff like that. And you got to work your butt off, especially when you don't leave high school without a degree, you know. I left high school with going into an apprenticeship. And the apprenticeship, that paid biscuits. And it will always pay biscuits because you're learning. They're not going to pay you good money. You get paid good money once you've done your apprenticeship. But that's the way it is. It was just good to have something to back you. Not even doing an apprenticeship, but that's for another day type of thing. these kids growing up, they're disappearing from seeing them online, and you see this online notice, and you see offline, and they've been offline for 150 days or whatever. That's because they can't afford to have internet or a running computer to stay up to date. And I know how that feels. Like, that was me back then. So the light at the end of the tunnel is you will get back into what you're doing and enjoy it. That's whether it's computer gaming, music, whatever. You eventually get back to enjoying it, and that's what this is. Me getting back to enjoying talking just about random stuff. So yeah, good fun, and it's a shout out to all the Rocket League boys going through the hard times of living life. I'm sure a lot of them are doing well, and to the ones out there in the World Championships from Australia, you guys rock. I always envy you guys because you got the skill, you got the talent, and you work bloody hard. You can apply that to anything in life. You're going somewhere. So, congrats for getting overseas and whatnot. Right. Main thing I want to do with this podcast, guys, is trials and tribulations of being a father, and what goes right, what goes wrong, what I don't know, and what I've literally found out. It's funny because there's a lot of books, there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of everything telling you how to be a dad, but truly you don't learn how to be a dad until you actually have a child in front of you doing child things, and that's where you properly learn. I don't think a book could have prepared me. It maybe could have, but I'm just going to say this now. Second child, number two child, when it eventually comes, it's going to be so much easier. And I'm probably going to have a little bit of a better bonding connection with number two, but number one's just as good. Love JJ to bits. We're going to reference him as JJ, which leads us into the next segment. What's in the Cubby-house? What's in the Cubby-house? What's in the Cubby-house today? JJ's in the Cubby-house with something amazing. Let's find out what it is. So I need to explain this with JJ, my boy. The wife brought in the play equipment because it was winter for a start over here. It's cold, it's wet. Can't go outside because we've got nothing covering the yards, so it's just wet and soggy, and the dog does poos outside. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, no worries. We're going to bring the slide and the playground equipment inside. It's not huge. It's one of those mini ones, so you probably like a meter by 2. And what we've done is I've got some rope to hold it all together, right? And I've put like a blanket over the top, and we've created what we call essentially a Cubby-house. So that's where we've got this sign from. What's in the Cubby-house today? It's JJ throwing stuff in there, and we find out what the surprise is because he's like, Dad, Mum, let's go see what's in the Cubby-house. Let's jump in the Cubby-house. So today in the Cubby-house, simply, it's balloons. We got balloons, yellow, blue, purple, whatever balloon he can get, he's got them. He kicks them around, he throws them around. Funny, the way he names balloons at the moment is a boon. I think that's how we do it. Boons or boons, not balloons, boons. So you find kids will cut certain letters and bits and pieces out of the language because they're still learning. He's 2.5 at this stage. So yeah, but balloons in the Cubby-house this week. We'll see what there is next week. It's time for Cooking with Dad. Right, one thing I find I do quite a bit is there's a lot of cooking and cleaning, prepping. Sort of have to find a balance. Being a dad, you can't do all the things you used to do. So I've found one thing I'm good at is cooking. I mean, the wife will be first to admit that I cook more and I put a little bit more effort into it, where she's a little bit more simple. Nothing wrong with that. That's just the way people cook, right? But because I like a little bit of taste and a little bit of texture and a little bit of different things, and the wife's a bit picky, I do the cooking. So recently. It's a staple that I usually make. When I say staple, it's a meal I usually make, and it's quite common to the common man. It's crumb chicken with rice, right? What can go wrong with crumb chicken? Now, what I've been taught to do with crumb chicken is to prep a couple different plates. You cut the chicken up into small bite-sized spaces, like pops, like chicken pops or something like that. Maybe slightly bigger if you like the wholesome chunks, right? You got your flour, right? You got your breadcrumbs, and you got your egg. Now, everyone is different in how they do this preparation method, but I forget which and how or which way to do it. All I know is you have to put the chicken into flour first, then whether you go egg and crumb, or you just go crumb, egg, crumb, or back to flour and you double crumb it. Or honestly, that is feedback for people. Like, give me the feedback. How would you crumb chicken? It's the most silliest thing, but you could double, triple crumb it, and it could be crazy, right? So we did crumb chicken this weekend, which was the wife's giving it 10 out of 10. Perfecto. Mwah. It was really, really, really nice. So, but what I did differently with the crumb chicken, if people make this regularly and understand how it works, is instead of using egg, I used olive oil and put it into olive oil. And instead of dipping into different plates, I just got a bowl. And this is lazy. This is really lazy, but somehow it worked, right? Cut out the chicken, put it in the bowl, sprinkled maybe a cup of flour on top. And this is maybe about 500 grams of chicken, right? You put a cup of flour on top, right? Mix it in with one of the mixing spoons. All the chicken, it all absorbed up the flour, right? And you could see the flour sitting on the outside, like, perfect, that works. It's like, well, I don't know why I didn't do that the first time. My hands are clean. This is the main common thing, right? When you do this, the old style where you dip, your hands get covered in everything. And then the next thing you know, it's a mess. But with this, I just had it all in the bowl and my hands were clean, which was like, oh my God, this is great. And then the wife said to me, oh, I think there's a vegan way of doing it where you don't use egg and you can use olive oil. And I went, oh, that's interesting. Like, let's do that. All right. So I chucked the olive oil in, mixed it around. I went, doesn't look great, but that's okay. Let's put some breadcrumbs in. Put some breadcrumbs in. Yeah, it worked. It didn't look as it would if you put egg with it, but it did work. And so I put it in some shallow oil in the pan, let it fry up. It looked good. It tasted good. Yum, 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 yum. I did have a little bit extra, so I did chuck an egg in, which I ate. And yeah, there is a difference. The egg does give it a little bit more crispy crunch, and then you have that little eggy taste that you miss out on. But vegan's not that bad. And it was gluten-free flour, which doesn't taste any different. All honesty, I got a 10 out of 10 for what I did with my cooking. So one thing I've been thinking about is just moments with JJ, and you really got to think on the top of your head. You can't just write these things down because you're living in the memory. I find recording stuff on the phone, you forget the moments. I've always found that. Like, my wife almost gets every single moment on the phone. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's fine. Like, we get those memories in a video format, but I'm always old school with no cameras, no phones. Let's just remember the moment for what it is. And one thing that comes back to me remembering, because it's been 2.5 years, and in 2.5 years you see a little baby eating, sleeping, pooing machine, right? You see the changes into a little boy that runs around, screams their heads off, and does all sorts of stuff. And in the process, I find you've got to change with it. You can't just change. It generally takes longer for men to adapt than women, because women are thrust upon it because they have the baby in the belly. They're experiencing all these pains, feelings, vomiting. You see them have this awesome glow. They have all these experiences where the men are watching from the outside. When the baby's born, the men are still watching from the outside. Yes, they're involved. There is that feeling of, it's hard to describe when they're born. There's a euphoria in there. There's all sorts of stuff. You can't describe it, but one thing you know is you now have something that you're responsible for the rest of your life, and you cannot shirk that responsibility. Maybe that's what it is. It's like, now I'm now a dad. But for the first year, it was hard for me to really know my place. So you do what you know, and then you slowly adjust to it. But a memory that comes back to my mind, which I believe, which JJ is about 3 months. The game I was playing was Escape from Tarkov. Hated playing in-game because it took 40 minutes to run through a server, as any Tarkov players know, right? It's a shoot battle. You got to survive. You got to pick up items and gears and stuff like that. Fine, whatever. But what I would do is I would skim the market at that point, where you buy and you sell and you make money that way, and you can just buy up gear. And that was my way of getting through the moments where I had to mind the little JJ. Now, we put him in this cot, and to give mum a break, because mum was tired, which all mums go through, they get tired, they need breaks. We put the cot next to my computer setup. And because I've got a mixer and a few different headsets from all the esports and broadcasting, I grabbed my broadcasting headset and I hooked one of the ears over the side of the cot, and then the other ear went into the cot with a microphone, which was sitting, I don't know, like 10 centimeters away from JJ while he was sleeping. And he's an infant, right? He's tiny, small. The little cues. They do the little cues type of thing. All the dads understand. All I was listening for while I was playing was him being upset, and then I would stop. But what I remember is those little cues and the breathing of him just resting easy and silent. And you like those moments, you truly know you're a dad. It's unorthodox the way it all panned out with that, but like I'm still enjoying myself and I'm still looking after my son. And you just hearing those moments, what a microphone can actually pick up from a little one is amazing. And that's what I was hearing. So I'd turn the sound down, the game sound down, and try and turn up my microphone as loud as I possibly could to hear him. And it was just amazing. So those are the things I remember with JJ. And every podcast I'm going to try and think of something that I've experienced over the last 2.5 years with him that is a memory worth. And I think, JJ, when you're older later and he listens back to this, and he goes, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I'm going to try not to embarrass you. I promise, mate. I'll try not to embarrass you. Anyways, that's a remembering moment. One thing that touches the heart this week and why I'm actually starting this podcast, I want to give a shout out to G. He knows who he is. I'm not going to explain him to anyone else, but as soon as I start explaining why I'm giving him a shout out, I'm sure some people will pick up who know him personally. G's been my mate for a while. He's been suffering with his own conditions, and I just got to say he's my main motivator and inspiration for doing what I do over the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years, whatever. However long I've known him, he has been my driving force. When I'm down, he picks me up type of thing, and we all have that. It's mentors. You've got a mentor. But I do want to give him a shout out. This week he's told me that he's lost sight in one eye and the other eye is halfway there. Whether it gets worse or not, we don't know at this stage. But it clicked for me because even though he didn't say it, the message was there. I'm not going to be able to read or see any content in the future. It'd be nice if I could listen to something type of thing. That was the message to me. It was clear and cut. And if there's any reason why I'm doing this, it's to give the people out there who can't see things something to listen to. I made a joke with him, and he had a good laugh about this. And he'll have a good laugh when he listens, because I know he's going to listen. And he talked about his soccer game, because he's into his soccer, loves his soccer. I'm looking forward to watching the soccer game, in his hospital bed. And I said, mate, well, you're going to enjoy the commentary, aren't you? And he goes, all the more so. I don't want any of this gas bagging commentary where they fluff and make stuff up. I want proper content to listen to. And I said, it's very important, isn't it? To me, that's always been my thing about commentary in any sport or esport is don't make fluff. Stay true to what the content offers, and really give the viewer an experience. And I don't think you ever go wrong with esport commentary. That's it. It's just a matter of time for me. I don't have that time out there to do the commentary. So let's touch on that in a moment. But shout out to G, dude. He surprised me because there's another question I asked him was, I don't know how you keep going, because he's been dealing with this for a long time, and he says, I was brought up tough, tough bloke, and we just keep going. We never get defeated, and we just have that the positive mental attitude from G is amazing. And if anyone can draw anything from that, is, there's people out there that are suffering way worse than what you are, and you're just going to remember, if you're having a bad day, someone else is having it worse. So pick yourself up, smile, get on with it, because life is worth living for, and life is worth enjoying every moment you possibly can. So yeah, G, man, you're a massive inspiration to everyone that knows you and what you're going through because of who you are and what you do, mate. Big shout out to you, mate. I'll try and make more shout outs to other people who influenced myself, but continue to influence me in my future endeavors as well. So yeah, G, just one for you, mate. Righto, one for the softies. I was watching a movie on Netflix this week, and it's called The Purple Heart, which is a war story set in Afghanistan, but it's about a feisty male and a feisty female finding each other before the male gets shipped off. And they practically get married before they go to scam the system, to break the system. But what follows is a story for the softies and for the people who love stories. I suggested something worth watching. I'll give it a 4 out of 5 stars. The Purple Heart. It was recommended to me on Netflix, and I actually liked it. It brought a tear to me eye. I make sure I watched it without my wife. I don't want to. She's going to be like, "Would you watch that without me?" JJ was playing this morning, and I popped it on, and he didn't mind, so I got to watch a movie while the missus was doing her thing. So, anyways, good movie. Oh boy, so something I certainly want to talk about, the one and only Mr. JJ and the wife, really. Over the weekend, we ended up changing JJ's cot into a toddler bed. It's one of those convertibles where the design of the cot itself, you lift down, you can change the bed down, and you can bring it out, you can add extra insert into it to make it work, right? So we thought, great, let's do some changes. But how this all came about was the wife was saying to me, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, I'll get this sorted in the room and stuff like that. And what I said to the wife, I said, you work from home, I'm sure you can get 5 to 10 minutes of the day to do little things to get the room ready, and we can get the room ready over the next month with my weekends and whatnot, sorting out all the things like, what am I thinking? Like the cameras, the change of the cot, because you got to maneuver it with all the tools and stuff. Installing shelves. There was another thing we had to think about as well, was putting a gate at where the door is, because now he can actually open the door itself. He can now get out. So if he can get out of his cot, he can get out of the door. It means he can get out of his room. So that was the next condition. We're like, well, we need to get a gate, and we need to get a gate that works. And every parent knows from when they start walking, they want to get through, because we've got a few baby gates through the house, right, separating different things. So JJ shakes the gates, and if you've got any of those toddler gates that on the ends, they're just like the little circle swivels, right, which you just tighten and it goes against the wall. The gate comes out. It's not very secure. It's really just for babies. Every gate I've had to get since he was walking has to be attached to the wall, and they're really finicky in how they attach. So that was a mission in itself. And to put it into retrospect, this is the reason why I wanted to do it over the month. What happened is the conversation I had with the wifey. Let's do it over the month. Let's do an hour here or 10 minutes here. We'll sort out little things. I get a message from the wife and she says, I've changed the cot. I've made it into the toddler bed. And then I replied back and I said, that is the last thing you do. My head just exploded. I went, it imploded because I knew all the things that you had to do to build up to it was now I'm going to have to do this tonight. I'm going to have to come home. I'm going to have to go to Bunnings. I'm going to have to get the shelf. I'm going to have to get the bits and pieces. Yeah, oh my goodness. It took me an hour to an hour and a half to actually get the gate on, and the gate size itself, it's not the right size. So you've got to buy a gate that you can do an extension, and you clip the middle and you screw in the side bits and the bits and pieces. Honestly, you need to read the instructions for this. You can't figure it out without instructions. It's not like the IKEA furniture, which everyone eventually goes, right, don't need instructions, we can do it. Mind you, try doing that. That's a pain in the butt as well. So, reading through these instructions, it took me 2 hours to get it done. And even when it was done, it still wasn't done right. And so the next day I had to fix it. But nonetheless, I got that done, and then I put holes in the walls, put a shelf up. The camera didn't get the right scope of the room, so I had to jerry rig. I had to put a screw in and some blue tack on the edge and sort of do a little MacGyver hack to make it angle a little bit more, because in the underside of the camera, it has one of those sort of keyholes right for a screw. So you know how you put your screw in and then you drag camera slightly up and it just stays locked. It's like a little lock keyhole. So I had the blue tack, put it on the angle. It works, right? Thank goodness for that, because I was already sweating. Even though it was a freezing cold rain night in the middle of winter, I was sweating from doing all this. Meanwhile, I've got the wife in the background and JJ having a party because he knows something's going on. The doona size is the wrong size. We don't have everything we need, but we made it work. And eventually we got into bed. Great. Absolutely great. But I was stressed from that night. So I was so stressed out. And I'm like, this is a classic example of fathers out there. If you're becoming a father and you get to this stage and you're listening, if your wife starts mentioning about baby-proofing the toddler room, start doing it. Don't procrastinate, start doing it, because they're going to get to a point where they will go in there and they will literally do the one thing to set off an avalanche. And then you're going to have to go in there and sort it out. Unless the woman's like fully handy. Like fully handy-andy. I'm going to go with that one. Honestly, you're going to be stuck doing all the stuff setting up the baby room. It's sorted. The next day, I fixed up the gate. What else did we do? We went to Spotlight and got a proper doona size. We got safety pins to pin it back because it was a single bed. Because we don't want to buy small toddler stuff in a year's time. He's not going to use it. We want to have stuff he's going to use for the next 5-10 years. So we're sort of accumulating those type of things. We changed his baby suit. We had to go buy a sleep suit that has legs, because the sleep suit didn't have legs. It was one of those little, what's the bag? It's not like a sleeping bag, right? And you do a hop race. He was in one of those. He couldn't walk in it. Now we've got one that is maybe a size too big for him, but it works. And now he can walk around. It didn't stop at me just fixing up the room, getting the room ready. We then had the issue of JJ rolling out of bed. He's got a little insert in his bed that he sleeps in, and he sort of tosses and turns in between it, which is everyone moves when they sleep. But he didn't have that, and we thought, oh, he'll be okay. He'll just toss and turn. A couple of hours after he's gone to bed, we didn't see, we heard a thump. And we're like, oh no, we all know what that is. That dreaded thump. The distance between the cot and the floor is maybe a ruler length, but you still hear a thump. And we're like, uh-oh. And then we hear the crying, and we're going, my wife's gone, oh no. Because she does the settle down routines and the night stuff, because JJ asks us for it. It's always been the case. Having issues with him falling out of his bed for that. So the next day, off to Bunnings after the second day of the bed saga, and we brought a side rail. Really, we put that on, and we then soon realized two things. One, this one is not made for these type of beds. It's made for a single size mattress bed, not a cot conversion toddler beds. So we then looked on the website for the model that goes with the current cot, because it's a certain type of cot, and it was too big anyway, and it was going to take 10 days to ship over, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, She was saying to me, oh, look, I'm just going to go to Big W or Kmart and see if I can find one there. And I said, don't. We brought one from Bunnings. We can make it work. Most fathers and most dads, most blokes, I think it's just something in us. We go into problem-solving mode. And when we go into problem-solving mode, when we buy something, we don't like to take it back. And that's like 100% logic, right? We don't take it back. We just make it work, even though it's not working how it's designed to work. You got the protector, and then you got the latch that stretches underneath the bed and then hooks over onto the side of it, so it locks in place. And you then put the mattress down, and it doesn't move. In this case, it didn't really work with the cot. It did lock in, but it still moved. So the only thing I could think of was two things that I have handy. It is rope or cable ties. And I think everyone's been in the situation where a cable tie saves your life or a rope saves your life. In this case, I went looking for it, and it was absolute pelting outside of rain, and it was in the shed, and it was the only way I was going to get it. At this point in time, the wife and I have had an argument about it. So I'm steaming, and I'm like, I'm going to get this done, and I don't care what you say. It's going to work, because you're not going to Kmart. You're not going to Kmart. You're not going to Big W to find this. Go out and get the cable ties, come back in absolutely soaked, rip the jumper off, and back in, and started tying in between the cot, the side of the cot, and the side protector to make it work. It did work after a little bit of jigging and a little bit of tightening in certain places, and just moving the cable, because obviously when you put them together, you get that tail where it sticks out, and you need to get rid of that, right? So you cut it, but when you cut it, you got a sharp edge. So what do you do with a sharp edge? You get a lighter, and caution to anyone out there doing this, be very bloody careful. You'll burn your house down if you're not careful. Got a lighter, lit up the end of it, because the cable tie is plastic. It's gonna bubble. It's gonna burn. You give it a little moment just to stop sizzling, so you don't burn yourself. And if you've got rough tradie hands, it's fine. If you've got little delicate hands, then maybe go get a tool to help you soften up the edge. You soften up the edge so it doesn't scratch, and then you're okay. Like, that's my way of saying toddler proof. It probably isn't, but I MacGyvered it. Okay, I absolutely MacGyvered it. I made it work. In the end, the wife calmed down, and once she did all the research online of what was available, she's like, okay, I'll give you brownie points for that. She didn't say it directly, but I know in her mind when she calmed down and she's, oh, it works. Brownie points. So thumbs up, be persistent. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the trouble that we went through just to get that to work. Okay, it's going to sound a little bit different. That's because the only quiet space that I've got currently is inside a car, because the sun has just been put down and the wifey's playing some games, which is fine. I'm happy with that. I'm just happy that the first podcast is done. Guys, if you enjoyed the podcast, there will be an email that you can send your correspondence through to if you've got any suggestions for the podcast or feedback, comments, anything. It will be in the description below. I encourage you to share it with your friends if you enjoyed it, and give us a thumbs up and subscribe. So guys, until next time, take it easy. I'll see you soon.